Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
OK/X/ settle in, get cozy. I have a story to tell you. I don't have this pre-written, so bear with me. 2010. I was a junior in high school at this time. Lived just outside of Tucker County, West Virginia. Don't want to go into any more detail than that because it would be pretty easy to find my old house on Google Earth. The area was pretty rural. I didn't have any neighbors closer than a couple miles away. Had the house to myself for a few days. Dad was a trucker. Decide to invite some friends over. Call up delinquent friends, Elijah, Jonathan, and Josh. Our friendship was mostly based on us all being shithead teenagers. We didn't do much else besides drink when we hung out. Back on point. Call them over. Jonathan drives his shitbox truck over and picks up Josh and Elijah on the way. They arrived at my house. We get shitty music going through shitty speakers. Pretty typical start for one of our nights. Sorry for the short post, I haven't been to /X/ in years. I'm not sure when I'll get cut off or whatever. Just decided to share this on a whim. At this point, we're all completely sober. We're looking to change that. We go down on my back porch. Elijah is rolling. The wind kicks up out of nowhere at this point. Elijah loses what he had in his paper to the wind. It blows away. No way to get it back. I step off the porch to survey the sky. It's starting to get darker. Clouds are rolling in. We decide to head into the house and continue inside. We sat down in my kitchen. I open up the windows to ventilate smoke. The wind isn't too bad at that point, but we aren't taking any more chances outside. Wind begins to pick up again. It's blowing against the curtains and they're nearly horizontal. The wind is consistently loud at this point, so I decide to close the window. Weather is obviously getting worse at this point. Looks like storm clouds are setting in. I told Jonathan to pull his truck into our tool shed. It's built tall enough to support a car. I push some shit to the side and he rolls his truck in. Just barely fits. I close the doors and lock them to prevent them from blowing open. Had happened once before. The doors were replacements. The originals were destroyed when my dad left the parking brake off and his truck rolled out and snapped the boards in half. The wind is pretty harsh at this point. It made closing the doors difficult. I'm worrying about tornadoes. I hadn't seen one before, but the wind was making me paranoid. Me and Jonathan go back inside. We go back to chilling with Josh and Elijah at the table. It starts raining hard. And I mean, it's really raining. It was pouring outside like I'd never seen it before. It actually helped calm me down, because in my mind, tornadoes and rain don't come at the same time. At this point, we're all just sitting at the table, chilling and watching the rain. Elijah gets up to go to the bathroom. I'm deep into a conversation with Josh about whether tornadoes and rain can happen at the same time or not. We see the sky light up outside. Less than a second later, there's a clap of thunder. Haven't seen a storm develop like this in years. The thunder is behind us. The kitchen windows faced out back. The thunder was coming from the front of the house. Elijah is still in the bathroom. The windows next to us suddenly light up like there's floodlights on the other side. There's a huge clap of thunder. It felt like it came from right above the house. The house goes dark. We all stand up. Every area in the house that isn't in the immediate vicinity of a window is pitch black. Elijah runs back into the room, whisper yelling, not sure how to describe it, but you know what I mean, at us to come with him. We oblige and follow him. He leads us to my bathroom. We packed ourselves in. It was cramped with all of us in there. Smelled like shit. He tells me to come look out the window. I push past everyone and look outside. The window in the bathroom faces the front of the house. He's pointing up at the clouds, pointing at literally nothing. I ask him what the hell he's trying to point out. He just whispers, "Wait." I stare out the window. We're all silent. After 30 seconds, there's some lightning in the distance. I watch the lightning. You wanted me to see the lightning? No, you dumbass. Look at where I'm pointing and wait. I look back at the patch of the sky he's pointing at. Jonathan and Josh get tired of waiting and go out into the living room. Not a second later, there's another flash of lightning. I stay focused on where Elijah's pointing. I finally see what he's pointing out. When the lightning flashed, all but a certain part of the sky lit up. A part of the sky stays pitch black as every cloud around it lights up. A small, nearly circular part of the sky doesn't react to the flashes of light. It isn't a part of the sky that's not covered in clouds. It's visible just under the rest of the clouds. Elijah and I are both confused. I call for Josh and Jonathan to come back. A minute later, the two shitheads manage to get themselves off the couch and get into the bathroom. We're all crowded around the window. Another 30 seconds later, there's another flash of lightning. They both witnessed the same thing me and Elijah did. We know we're not just seeing shit at this point. I decided I want to go see it from outside. I run out onto the front porch and stare up at the sky, waiting for the next flash of lightning. Everyone else follows. We're all just staring up into the sky silently at this point. Another flash of lightning, immediately followed by a nearly deafening clap of thunder. The entire sky lights up. There's nothing there. We're confused. Elijah is freaking out. He goes inside and sits on the couch. I went back into the bathroom to see if it was a trick of the light. Another flash of lightning. There's still nothing there. Jonathan and Josh come back inside. Elijah gets up and walks over to them. He locks the door behind them. He continues on to lock the back doors. Important note, the doors were glass with a wooden frame. He just stands by the back doors after locking them, holding the handles and looking outside. I'm 99% sure he was expecting to see little gray men in the bushes. There's another flash of lightning and clap of thunder, just as loud as before, even from inside the house. Elijah flinches and turns his head to look at the sky. I walk over and join him. Josh and Jonathan sit down on the couch. Lightning flashes a few more times. Neither of us see anything unusual. I go to sit down with Josh and Jonathan. Elijah sits down in a chair at the kitchen table next to the back doors and puts his head down. He looks like he's about to vomit. Nothing much happens for a couple minutes. The rain continues to pour, the thunder booms and the lightning flashes. I move over to the table with Elijah and pull up a chair next to him. He turns to look at me, white as a sheet. He tells me that it's back. I ask him where it is. He just tells me to look outside. I walk over to the back door. The moon is hanging low enough to be able to see it without stepping outside. For a couple seconds, I don't see anything. Then I noticed a slight discoloration in the clouds. I could just barely make it out, but it was the same shape that we'd seen before. It was easier to see than before. It was hanging just below the moon and the area around it was better illuminated. It just hung there, not blowing in the wind with the rest of the clouds. There's another flash of lightning, this time off in the distance behind my house, in the direction I'm facing. It's gone. I run over to Josh and Jonathan and tell them what just happened. We're all starting to get pretty scared. Elijah suggests covering the windows. I agree. We go from window to window, drawing the curtains and closing the shades, etc. We're all huddled in my living room, with the only light present coming from our phones and the occasional flash of lightning. We're just sitting around and talking at this point. Elijah's completely silent. He looks like he's asleep, but every couple minutes he perks up, hushes everyone, and looks at the back door. Nothing happened at those times. 20 minutes passes. Elijah perks up again and tries to hush everyone. Jonathan tells him to shut up. Elijah leans into him wide-eyed and whispers to him to be quiet. We're all dead silent for a second. You could hear a pin drop. Jonathan looks like he's about to say something. We hear the front door knob and back door handles turn simultaneously. Both are locked. Both knobs and handles are dropped back into place at the same time. Elijah stands up, shaking. We all follow suit. We're all completely silent and horrified. I gesture for my friends to follow me. We walked into my room. I shut and locked the door behind us. The window is already locked and the curtains are drawn. We all decide it's a good idea to call 911. Josh pulls out his phone. He still has a signal. He dials 911. I grab an old aluminum bat I have under my bed. I'm pacing around my room. Elijah is sitting on the edge of my bed with his head in his hands, and Jonathan is sitting next to him looking like a shithead. Josh gives them our address. tells them that somebody is trying to break in. They tell him to stay on the line. He does. Signal drops. At this point, we're reasonably sure that there's going to be an officer dispatched and sent to my house. We're getting a bit more talkative. After a couple minutes of silence, outside of the rain and occasionally thunderclap, we begin to get a bit of courage back. We decided to go back out into the living room. Didn't want to be trapped in my room if something got in. I unlock the door. We step out slowly into the living room. I'm gripping the bat so tightly my knuckles are white. We make it into the living room. Nothing's gotten in. We're all standing around in the living room like idiots, just waiting for something to happen. I turn to talk to Elijah. Lightning illuminates the house again. I can see the shadow of person on the ground, coming from the hallway we just walked out of. Me and Josh both see it. We go silent. Jonathan and Elijah quiet down as well. We can hear quiet breathing from down the hall. They both turn to face the hallway. A few seconds of quiet, raspy breathing, followed by soft footsteps. I book it towards the back door. I unlock one side and throw it open, and yell for them to come. They all run outside. I take one look back. There's a silhouette of a human standing just next to the hallway, and one just next to the bathroom. I throw the door shut and run after my friends. They're circling around the side of the house trying to get around front. I'm lagging slightly behind. It's still pouring out. We're all already drenched from being out for just a few seconds. The long grass is wet and slippery. They get the corner of one side. I can hear the door I shut swing open behind me. I don't look back. I turn the corner. I'm still lagging behind. I can hear the grass around the corner behind me being crunched down. I bolt forward and nearly catch up with my friends. I'm only 2 or so yards behind them. I stop hearing the grass behind me being crushed. They turn the corner to get to the front of the house. I follow close behind. Jonathan runs over to the tool shed. Even in the dark of night, I could see his face lose color when he realized it was locked. He turns to me going, "Where's the key? Where's the fucking key?" I don't have it. Josh points at the roof. There's a clear silhouette of a person standing on top of the roof and staring down at us, illuminated by the moon. We bolt again. I'm in front this time. We're running down the road outside my house. I can see a car in the distance. A blinding light is shining in our direction, coming from behind my house. It only lasts a second and it's gone. The car is 100 feet away at this point. We stand out in front of it and flag it down. It's one of my neighbors from a couple miles up the road. He stops and asks us what's going on. We told him someone tried to break into our house and chased us. He believes us and starts to call the police. I told him we already had. He tells us to stay in his car until they get here, continuing. The story is pretty much over at this point. Sorry for the lack of a real climax. I'm telling this as it actually happened. Going to stop Greentexting here. The cops got there about 30 minutes later. It was about 1 in the morning by then. They checked around the house and didn't find anything besides what we left on the table. I took the blame for that and got in a lot of trouble. Wasn't my first offense. The officers decided we just went crazy and that no actual break-in had taken place, so no real investigation ever happened. So I got charged with possession and was put on parole for a short period of time. When my dad got back, a week later, I got in a ton of trouble and got sent to live with my mom because he didn't think I was fit to take care of myself without him around anymore. It was a bit of a relief to not be out in that area anymore, but I missed my friends a lot. It wasn't a good time. I'm not sure what else there is to say besides I hate cops in rural areas. They're a bunch of power-tripping assholes. I'm happy to answer any questions or tell Elijah's story, which is pretty short. Again, sorry for there not being any real climax to the story. I didn't want to spice it up to be more interesting. Again, all of this did actually happen. Okay, cool. I'm gonna shorten this to fit in one post because it's 2 a.m. here and I gotta get to bed. Elijah moved to Arizona in 2014. This happened a few months ago. At some point, he and some friends take a drive up to Flagstaff. He and 3 other people are going. They took 2 cars, 2 people in each. Elijah's driving when they get to emptier areas. Dude didn't have his license, still doesn't, while his buddy gets some rest. He's driving through the forest in the middle of the night. I know this is cliché, bear with me. Out of nowhere, a tall woman with long, gangly arms and legs starts running out into the road. She's wearing a white dress-like thing and has long brown hair obscuring her face. She looks like she's a good 9 feet tall. She has her arms out in front of her. He passes her before she can run in front of the car. On its own, it wouldn't be all that interesting of a story. What makes it interesting is that when they were driving back, one of his friends driving the other car called him and said he had the same thing happen to him. Elijah hadn't told him about his experience at that point. Sorry if that one doesn't sound believable. I trust Elijah though, so I believe him. Anyways, I'm out for the night.
Be me, about 40, some years ago. Wife is at work. I'm alone at home, goofing around playing computer games and shit. The wife comes home, says hello, and switches on her computer. She's into gaming as well. Goes away to change into other clothes. She's gone unusually long, about half an hour. Think nothing about it, maybe she's taking a real long shit or whatever. Front door goes, the wife comes home, says hi. And why is her comp already running? Visibly from outside. It was raining, she's soaked. Tell her WTF, you switched it on half an hour ago when you came home, why did you leave again? She said she wasn't home till then. Took her a bit longer at work than usual. WTF I am talking about. No history of mental problems or drug abuse or whatever. Wasn't the first nor the last WTF moment in our new old house. Things go missing, things are different, then you remember, all this shit. We had some serious electrical bills we couldn't explain, till I found a wire that went into the wall of the area and cut it off. Don't know what purpose it served, for all I know it might have been laying there just smoldering. And for once, this heap isn't built on an old Indian burial ground. We are several thousand kilometers away from the nearest Indian grounds, so no movie plot there. We have some strange layout in the cellar area of the house. There might be one more room that has been filled up with earth and is not accessible anymore, or it is just walled off for purposes unknown. The hell I know, but I can't just tear down a stone wall that might be important for keeping the building upright. The house is nearly 100 years old, and there are no building documents that are more than some squiggles barely resembling the house.
Tell us more, Anon, we're listening.
Sure, but there are none of the big, spooky, showy, flashy things happening. It feels more like some quiet shit. In the cellar, I've got a room where I can stay around repairing stuff and such. I've got tool cases with, tools there. One box full of screwdrivers, straight blades. Haven't been tinkering with anything for some weeks. Get back down there. Only crossblade drivers. Truly WTF? When we bought the house, we tore down a non-supporting wall in the attic. Found bones there. I got no clue what these were, but they sure weren't from chicken. And behind a wall in a closed-off room, only about 4 by 1 by 1. I usually don't recommend storing bones. The wire I wrote about? It's no wire you would be able to push through earth. Olflex wire for those in the biz. The oldest kid always goes on about seeing monsters and stuff. Only when we are at home, only in his room. Never anywhere else. Our house is a part of the whole building. We need about 1/3 of the heating than the others. Not in terms of consumption, the actual energy. This would be nice, and I have heavily modernized the heating system. But so did the others. At last, a WTF I can live with. Floor in one room should be cold for it being no cellar underneath, and as far as we can tell, no insulation. When this was built, I think even the word insulation wasn't a thing. Floor is always comfy and warm. I could go on about this shit for endless walls of text, but I think you get my point. No biggies, but the little things that don't add up.
When I was 12 to 14, I had this really huge, as in tall, babysitter. And yes, my parents were overprotective. She looked perfectly normal and even would have been kind of cute if she hasn't been like 2 meters. Google 6.56 feet. She was 21 to 23 and was a college student, if I remember correctly. At first, these occasions happened like once in a month, but as I grew older, I made sure that I got an overnight stay beforehand, so I didn't need to endure these evenings since they were super weird every time. My parents hired her when they went out, and I couldn't get an overnight stay at a friend's house or something. Thankfully, I could convince them to stop this when I got older. Usually, she came at like 8 p.m. and always forced me to do something with her. Once I just locked myself up in my room and she complained to my parents afterwards, who grounded me for 1 week for not listening to her. Yay. In the most cases, we just watched a movie. Because she wasn't into video games, board games sessions sucked, and other stuff I tried was usually worse. So watching a movie was the best to get through an evening with her. I'll just describe one night. If you want more, I'll deliver. 5 years ago, I'm 13. It's not my first evening with her. She arrives at around 20 o'clock like usual. My parents leave and we decide to rewatch the first Lord of the Rings movie. I choose our armchair and she lies on the couch. I avoid eye contact because she always knows when I'm looking and stares right back, which makes me even more uncomfortable. 1 hour in the movie, I go to the toilet because I need to pee. I peed, washed my hands, and opened the door. It opens into the room. I literally jumped back and fell on my ass while letting out a girly scream. She stands in the doorframe, blocking it completely. Doesn't say a thing, just smiles at me. My head is red as a tomato because of that scream. I ask her to let me through. She doesn't answer. I decide to crawl through her legs and mumble something like, "Very funny." Right now, the thought of it is funny, but it wasn't back then, just scary and embarrassing. She also turned the lights on and I hit my toe on the way back. We didn't speak a word for the rest of the evening. I told my parents later, but my dad just laughed it off, that she was just pulling a prank on me. Yeah, that was my awesome babysitter. I don't know why she acted that way, and I have a lot of other stories with her where she pulls similar shit of.
Be 16-year-old me. Not super religious, but I frequently go to youth group as I'm good friends with everyone. We would always play games and shit before we started discussions and stuff. Not super into games unless it was anything involving hiding. Why, you may ask? I'll tell you why, you dumbass. In one of the church's childcare rooms is a smaller room with a two-way mirror. I have no idea why there was a two-way mirror in there, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever to hide in there and watch people try to find me. One day in October, they announced that they're gonna play some hide-and-go-seek type game in the dark. They turn off all the lights in the church. It's around 6 or 7, so it's already dark outside too. Pretty much pitch black unless you're in a room with a window or have your phone out. Mirror time. First thing I do, I go to the mirror room and hide in there. This other Spurg hides in there too. Spurg gets spooked out and leaves, but I stay. Several people go into childcare room. I see them, but they can't see me, and they don't find me. 10 minutes or so pass, and I stop seeing people. I was dumb and didn't realize that they had probably stopped playing. I waited another 5 minutes in there. Figure that I should probably make my way back to the main room, where they do worship and discussion and all that. As I get up to go, I see something outside the mirror. It's hard to see. The only light in the room was from a window that let in a little moonlight. See what looks like a little girl walking around and picking up toys and shit. Be spooked, but don't move. Figure she can't see me because of the two-way mirror. Hope she just goes away. Start praying. I ain't even believing that shit. Little girl looks right at me through the mirror. Creepy-ass scowl. She runs out of the room into the hall. I'm scared shitless, but I get out of the closet and go out the same door she did. It was the only exit to the childcare room. Start sprinting towards the main room, hoping not to see any weird shit. Get turned around. This place was like a maze fully lit. It was hard to get around in the dark. Finally see the door to the main room and see light coming from under it. Thank you, Jesus. Sprint towards the door and start hearing a crying sound coming from behind me. Nope. Don't look behind me and just keep running. Get in the door safe and sound. Apparently they had all come back and hadn't noticed I was gone. I enter the main room through the back while they're singing and shit. No one notices me get there, except for this one girl, Angelica. She runs the soundboard when the guy who normally does it is gone. We make eye contact and she looks as spooked as I am. I figured she could hear the crying coming from outside before I came in. Just shake my head and go to my seat. I found out from her later that she had a similar experience during one of the games. Worst part is that I hid in that mirror room alone like 12 times before then. Never again.
Not a very scary story, but still freaked us out. Be mid-March of last year, at my friend's house out in the middle of nowhere. Allentown, Florida, if you must know. 3 of us. Me and my two friends, Ryan and Craig. It's his house. Craig owns most of the land within a mile of his house, with the exception of a couple other houses. It's midnight. Be outside. Me and Ryan have baseball bats and machetes. Craig has a huge bamboo stick. He's not the smartest. Standing by an old fence, only about 8 foot long, runs parallel to the forest line about 20 feet away. Originally, I stopped there to take a piss. Ryan on one end, Craig on the other, and I'm standing in the middle, but about 10 feet away from the fence to form a triangle. Hear something large move in the woods. Everyone readies their weapons. Hear it move again and see it step into a clearing. Had to be at least 8 feet tall and skinny. We were fine with this until we heard the most god-awful, blood-curdling screech you could ever imagine. As I remember, it was a cross of a bear roar, a boar screech, a baby screaming, and a very deep growl. Loud enough we have to cover our ears and we can handle loud noises. Nope.jpg. We all took off running 2 miles down the street back to Craig's house. Drop our flashlights while running. We don't care. It's large and it's running after us. Get back to Craig's house safely. Pull the emergency cable on the garage door. Craig and Ryan slam the door shut. Run inside and sprint to Craig's room. He has a .270 that he keeps by his bed. Lock the door and wait in silence. Nothing happens for 5 minutes. Pull out our phones and get on Facebook. Ryan starts talking about how he has a friend in Canada who knows what just happened. What.jpg shows us chat logs. Went something like this. Friend: did y'all just get chased? Ryan: yeah. Why? Friend: I know what it was. Ryan: how can I be sure you know anything? Friend: were y'all hiding behind a bush by a green power box waiting on a car so you could jump out at it? Ryan: what the hell? Checked his chat logs, texts, everything. No sign of him mentioning anything about it. We stopped talking to him and go to head back out. This time I grabbed a .270 and loaded up 3 mags with some hollow points. Ryan has a machete and a .22, and Craig grabbed a bat and a machete. Head back out and look around before we go anywhere. See something large hovering in the field behind Craig's house. About the size of the thing that chased us, me and Craig went to nope out of there. Ryan proceeds to run at the thing shouting, "Blitzkrieg." Ryan: what the hell are you doing? He's too fast for us. By the time he reaches it, it flew off. Because I fired twice in its direction, Ryan comes back and we go inside. Message from Canadian friend. Oh God.jpg. Message says something along the lines of, "Leave them alone, damn it. Stop shooting at them, it'll only make it worse." We reply back, "The hell are you going on about?" He tells us to offer them something shiny, sleep deprived, willing to do anything, roll a fushigi down the driveway, stay inside the rest of the night, no sleep. Omegle till 5. Talk to some hot chicks but get banned for cussing off some dude with a 9mm. Hop in the golf cart and go out with a couple of guns and a machete to investigate last night's festivities. Back out of the garage, fushigi missing, drive down the road and pick up flashlights. They were off when we dropped them. They were on when we picked them up. Think that they must have turned on when they hit the road. Drive on further. Find footprints on the side of the road, 2 inches deep and too large to be even remotely human. Too stupid to think to get a picture. Keep going to the spot where we were standing last night. Ground tore up, fence broken down. Craig yells, "Jesus Christ, what the?" at the top of his lungs. Me and Ryan run over, dead bear in the woods, ripped open, covered in blood. Couldn't have been older than 3 or 4 hours. Nope out of there. Anything that can kill a bear around here is not a friend to us. Book it in the golf cart back down the street. Pull over to look at more footprints. Get back in the golf cart and look down the road. Foggy, but about a mile down the road we see something extremely tall and lanky standing there. Adrenaline is pumping by now. Ask Craig if anyone lives down there. Nope. It's a dead end and no one lives down there. Proceed to empty a full magazine into it. Nothing happens. Slowly drive towards it because why not? It disappears as we get closer. What the hell, man? I know something was there. Get to the spot where it was standing. Black scorch marks all along the road. Craig tells us that those were never there before. Find an old trail because why not? Last part. Start driving down the trail. Get to the end. Bonfire pit, log benches. Nothing extraordinary. We live in the South. Obviously a redneck hangout. Sitting around talking. Woods are only on one side of us. Only way out, though, is the trail we came in, which has woods on both sides. Hear a loud growl in the woods behind us. Me and Ryan turn and aim the guns in the woods. Proceed to fire a couple warning shots. Whatever it was, I took off running. Hop in the golf cart and book it down the trail. Nothing else happens until we get to the road. Fushigi sitting at the end of the trail. It wasn't there when we hopped on the trail. Book it down to Craig's house, leaving the Fushigi behind. Nothing else weird happens. Head down to the other side of town to go trail riding with mountain bikes and run around some large cliffs. Haven't been to Craig's since. Planning on going back out soon, though.
Be around 9 or 10 years old. I just moved out of my old room and into my parents' old room so I could have more space for toys and shit. The bed is against one wall, the foot of the bed sticking out in the middle of the room. The room is on the second floor, so I can lay on my side and look out the window past the neighbor's house and watch the moon and stars. This puts my back to the door to my room, one blocked-off storage closet and one regular closet. Be a big horror fan, but also a coward, so my mind wanders and gets scared a lot. Could always brush it off by falling asleep with the radio or TV, something so I wasn't in complete darkness and silence. Eventually, after a few weeks, I started feeling a presence behind me. The back gets kind of warm. It feels like I'm being watched. Radio doesn't help. Even TV doesn't help. Start having an awful time sleeping, more regular nightmares. Nightmares aren't anything specific or consistent. Try to sleep facing that direction, but always wuss out and hide under my blanket. Start pissing the bed again. Eventually, after 2 or so weeks trying to be a big boy about it, I tell my mom. She says she'll try and do something about it. Next couple of nights go better, but still not great. After that, the presence goes away completely. No more spooky, scary feelings. Tell my mom I'm doing much better and ask what she did, expecting to find out my mother is either some voodoo witch doctor or super secret badass Catholic priest demon hunter. Real exorcist shit. Tells me she took the urn holding my grandfather's ashes she left in the closet before the room was swapped out and put it in her room. Feel guilty and like shit. Sorry, Grandpapa.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.